everybody, this week we're going to talk about a story from the Old Testament that's maybe a little less familiar than a lot of these. It's from the book of Samuel, and has King David in it. So let's go ahead and listen to the story. David and his men were hiding from King Saul. They took refuge in a place known as the wilderness of Paran. It was an area where a very rich man called Nabal lived. Nabal had many servants and owned thousands of sheep and hundreds of goats grazing in the area. David's men did not take any of his animals for food and helped his herdsmen protect his flocks from other raiders. After a while guarding Nabal's herds, David sent men to ask him for some food. He told his messengers to be polite and remind Nabal how well they had protected his herds and herdsmen. But Nabal was so greedy and selfish, he would not share his food with David and his men. He lost his temper and replied with anger, insults, and scorn. The messengers reported back to David. It was now David's turn to be angry. "Arm yourselves," David shouted to his men. "We are going to pay Nabal a visit." David and 400 fighting men set off towards his house. But Nabal's wife Abigail had heard about her husband's rudeness. She was a very wise woman and wanted to stop the fight and protect her husband. So without her husband knowing, she loaded up donkeys with a huge supply of food and sent them to meet David. She met David and his men, angrily marching towards Nabal's house, ready to teach him a lesson. Abigail fell to her knees before David, pleading with him to take her gift of food and spare Nabal's life. David suddenly saw sense and exclaimed, "Blessed be the Lord of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me." Abigail had stopped a fight and spared lives. David took the gift of food and retreated back to their hideout. Abigail returned home to find that Nabal had arranged a feast. The next day, Nabal sobered up. Abigail told him what she had done and how close he had come to being attacked by David and his men. Nabal was so alarmed he had a heart attack and died 10 days later. On hearing this news, David decided he must look after Abigail and took her to be his wife. In this story, King David was hanging out and hiding from Saul. This was before David had become king, and he was out in Nabal's land. And he helped take care of the sheep and protected them all since he had an army with him. And then he expected food or something from Nabal because he'd been there and helping take care of his herds and everything. But Nabal never really asked him to do that, did he? He just did, and then expected something in return. So neither one of them was really right in this story. David asking for stuff when he had not done anything Nabal asked him to do or anything, and Nabal for refusing to be somewhat generous. So David goes to attack Nabal's city, but Nabal's wife sends David food and goes out, meets him, and protects him. She brought peace between them because she obviously didn't want them to fight and David was going to kill her husband. So she was the bringer of peace in this story. She stopped the conflict, and that's something a lot of us we can do every once in a while in our lives. When it's just little things, we can help our friends, settle arguments, and all sorts of things like that. We can bring peace in people's lives as well. We can also bring them peace by just being there for them and offering advice when we have it, and just caring about other people is a great way we can also bring people peace. So we're going to make a symbol of peace for our craft today. For this craft, we're going to want a colored piece of paper, some white paint, a couple different markers, a paintbrush. So we're going to put your paint. So there's an animal that often symbolizes peace. Do any of you know what it is? Right, it's the dove. So we're going to make a dove picture today. So I'm going to get some white paint. And then I'm going to take the white paint and I'm going to paint my hand with it. I'm kind of enjoying these paint crafts the last couple weeks. They're kind of fun. It's kind of fun to get a little messy sometimes. Especially after a long day at work for me. I come to church and make my video. And sometimes it's fun to get a little messy. So there we go. My hand's all painted. So I'm going to go ahead and put my handprint down on the paper. So you're going to want to let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to clean off my hand. Well, after you let it dry, let's put some feet on our bird. Give him a little beak. And an eyeball. Also to make it look a little bit more like he has a wing. Or some feathers. So here is my dove. So another similar piece is an olive branch. And a lot of times in stories and stuff, you'll have a dove actually carrying an olive branch. So I'm going to put that olive branch in the dove's mouth. And then I'm going to write in big capital letters at the top of my page, P-E-A-C. Any idea what that spells? It spells peace. So that's what this story was all about today. There was conflict, but it got resolved, and there was peace. Hope you had fun making your craft this week. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in Sunday school. Bye!